And I'm going to get started. And I'm going to share my screen with Algebra 1. Now, what I did is I took some copies of the book because there's just no way I could draw this. All right. And what we're going to be talking about is parabolas. And I'm going to do some highlighting here. I'm going to use this, use some yellow. Okay, we're going to be talking about parabolas. And parabolas are always curves like this or like this, all right? And there's a vertex, which is either the lowest or the highest point on the parabola, all right? And so, for instance, when we talk about the vertex here, it's 4, 0, negative 4. It's right there on the axis. On this one, the vertex is 2, 5. It's 2 over and 5 up because each of those lines goes up 2. And so that's the vertex. And actually, when they start talking about vertexes, we start talking about domain and range. Remember, the domain is all the possible x values. And so I'm going to change my writing utensil here. For this particular parabola right there, x is always greater than or equal to, actually, that's not correct. X can be anything. Whoa, I don't want to do that. All right. I want to get that out of the way here, but let's get this back the way it was. All right. Y is greater than or equal to a negative 4. Notice everything on that graph is above a negative 4. We call that the range. The range is always the x value in the domain. Excuse me, the range is the y values, and the range, domain is the x values, range is the y values. Notice here, these y values are always y is less than or equal to 5. All right. So notice here it says here, the domain is a set of all real numbers. The range is a set of all real numbers that are less than 5 or less than or equal to 5. Parabolas are always in a strange form. Okay. Notice this parabola. This is the equation for that parabola right here. All right. We always write it in the form of a function, and they always are in a form that looks like this, where we have something equals a number times x squared plus a number times x plus a regular number. And so one of the first things that you're doing when you're trying to graph it is to find the zeros, all right? And finding the zeros are where they cross the y and the x axis, all right? Hey, Shayla.
Hi.
So we're getting started. I am recording it, so I'll post it so you can look at it later.
Okay.
But we're talking about parabolas here, which are these curved graphs, all right? And they're always in the form of x squared and an x. Notice the x-intercepts here appear to be 2 of them that cross the x-axis in 2 spots, there and there, all right? And we can check by substituting, and this is what they do. Substitute the x and y values in the equation. And they did that here. Put a -1 here and a -1 here to see if it works. Yeah, 0 equals 0. We do the same thing over here. They're plugging in the x and the y values to see if this equation works. So here you have the equation, and they plug in an x here and here. Well, that was already, that wasn't a regular 3 already. And they plug in a 0 where there it is. And sure enough, 0 equals 0. So that's how you find where the x-intercepts are. Now to find where the y-intercepts are, the y-intercept equation, we see it as up there. Okay? It's like a, what, a 3 right here. The x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis right there at 3, all right? And that works with this as well, all right? This is a 3, 0. Actually, that's a 0, 3. All right, so that's when you start trying to figure out how to graph these parabolas. We're not really graphing them right now, but look at here. Sometimes the zeros are strange because look at this parabola right here. It crosses the x-axis in just one spot. Notice here, it crosses the x-axis in 2 spots, but here it only crosses the x-axis in 1 spot. So it's right at -2. And so they're testing it. They got x -2, y 0, and they plug those into the equation here and here to see if it works. And sure enough, yeah. So the 0 is -2. The zeros are 3, -1, and 3 for the x 0. So when they talk about the zeros, they're talking about the x-axis. All right. And we're going to keep going to the next page. This graph right here, does it cross the x-axis at all? Does that cross the x-axis? It doesn't. So there are no zeros. So in that particular case, we don't need to write down the zeros. They're not going to cross the y-axis. All right. The other thing that they ask you about is what's called the axis of symmetry. All right. And the axis of symmetry is the line, the imaginary line that is right in the middle of that parabola. Like it would be right there and right there. All right. What helps is if there's only one 0, if it only crosses the x-axis in one spot, then where it crosses is the vertex, and where it crosses is the axis of symmetry. All right. But if there's 2 zeros, you find the average of the 2 x's. Notice, where are the 2 x values here? We have a 5 and we have a -3, right? And if we average those together, we add them up and divide by 2, which is what they're doing right here. 1, so my axis of symmetry is a 1. You take it where it crosses that x-axis on those 2 spots and average them together. You can't really do that if it doesn't cross the x-axis. And so there's a formula here for finding the axis of symmetry. And when your equation is in this form, the axis of symmetry is going to be whatever the opposite of the b coefficient divided by twice the a coefficient. That seems kind of weird and tricky, but let's look at this equation right here and see how they did it. All right. What's the a coefficient? What's the b coefficient here? So actually, let's get a better writing tool for this. All right. What's the b coefficient here? It's the 6. So that's 6 on top. What's twice the a coefficient? Well, that's a 1. So this is going to be 2. And it's the opposite of that. What is the opposite of 6 divided by 2? -3. So your axis of symmetry, and which is what you see right here, that particular graph, right? Let's look at this one. Let's erase that. Oh, there we go. Let's look at this equation right here. My b term is 3. My a term is 2, but twice that. My a term is a -2. So what's twice a -2? Be -4, and the opposite of that. So I get 3 divided by -4, -3. So I get the opposite of 3 divided by -4, which is 3/4. My axis of symmetry is 3/4. And that's just your up and down line where your parabola goes around it. I know this seems like gobbledygook, but it's stuff you're going to use later on in math and trigonometry and algebra 2. And we're not just graphing curved lines or straight lines, we're graphing curved lines, parabolas. And they use parabolas all the time, okay? For instance, and we're not going to actually do this, but the path that a ball takes with gravity is in the form of a parabola. So whenever you, whoops, I didn't want to do that. Whenever you're talking about gravity and the way it affects a flying ball in motion, it actually is in the form of a parabola. And they make equations to figure out where the path is going to go. All right. Any questions, Daniel? You're going to have to unmute yourself, or do I need to unmute you? Go ahead.
So are we gonna have to graph the parabolas?
You're not going to be doing graphing right now. They're just going to ask you to find axis of symmetry, and the 0 is where it crosses the x-axis.
All right.
That's all they're going to have you do.
Okay.
All right? So
Yeah.
I'm going to stop recording, and I'll post that so you can look at that over and over again to your heart's content.
Adia.
She wants to talk to you, Adia. I'll unmute her. Oh, she has to unmute herself.
Okay.
Adia.
Hi. Yes.
Did you ever figure out how to see everybody on your computer?
I will
The top right corner.
a little while. Oh, Daniel says the top right corner, so.
I can see a video of you.
It's either speaker view or gallery view.
I'm like, wait, I don't understand, but okay.
Look in the top right corner.
You see the make enter full screen to the left of that. It says speaker view. If you press that, it'll go to gallery view, and then you can go back and forth.
Wait, restart.
Okay, so top right corner, the enter full screen. To the left of that, there's speaker view. Press that.
What?
Did you see it?
I'm confused.
It's gonna look like a little table.
A what?
Like a table, you know, like if you were like making a table in like math, you know.
I'm in full screen.
All right, so now it doesn't show up on mine. All right, play around with it. See you guys later. I'm going to stop recording.